lovingly asked to help to join the GREC family as well, as we continue this work forward. So I want to introduce our team. I see online right now, Laura Raganos. You want to unmute and say hi real quick? And
good morning, GREC region. It's great to be with you all this morning.
Awesome. And Jeff Sobalski, I think most folks know Mr. Sobalski. He leads our Student Technology Leadership Program.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here. It's going to be a great day.
And also online today from our team that will be coming in and out. This morning we have Mr. Sean Jackson, who leads all of our computer science efforts from the Kentucky Department of Education, as well as being a digital learning coach. And we also have Mr. James Allen, who is our library media lead in our Office of Education Technology, who's also a digital learning coach for us. And we have Mr. Ben Maynard, who helps lead from a school and district leadership perspective in digital readiness. And Ben, I know you're online right now. If you want to unmute and say hi real quick, just so folks can see your mug and get to know you a little bit more if they don't.
Morning, Greg. Folks, looking forward to it. See, I've got almost like 120 people. This is a big day. It's going to be exciting. So glad we can be here.
Awesome. We also have throughout the morning, I know Mr. David Cook, who is our division director over our Division of Innovation. David, I'm not sure. I know you're jumping in. You may be online right now. So you want to say hi? Okay. And then the rest of David's team in our Division of Innovation may want to unmute and jump. I know there will be in and out throughout the morning. Awesome. Okay. So as I said, we're extremely excited to partner and join you in some additional work. We have schools all throughout the state who are kicking off with students, have already kicked off with students, but also next week is a big week for us. And this work can't come fast enough and soon enough. And we know that you've been hard at work. We know that we're a state, Kentucky is a state that in the spring, during this public health crisis, we were a state that chose not to shut down and to forge forward. We learned a ton, and everything that we learned is building into what we're launching this fall. And that is awesome learning experiences, sometimes not what we would choose, but where we are today is an opportunity to move learning forward for our students. We have to get back to that as quickly as we can. We all know that. We all agree to that. And we're all working as hard as we can. And we join you in that work. So I'm Marty Park. I'm our Chief Digital Officer at the Kentucky Department of Education. We not only focus on the technologies and the digital tools and resources and the bits and bytes and the blinky lights, but where our passion lies is actually using technologies for learning and for school efficiencies. And so that's what we bring to the table. That's what our focus is. And joining me this morning, our team, and Laura Raganos. Ms. Raganos will share a bit this morning as well. She leads our Digital Learning Coach Network across the state. Again, that's maximizing the effective uses of technology. And so I'm going to share my screen. And if someone can, the first person that either through text or unmute your mic and let me know that you can see my screen, that would be fantastic. You get a special prize.
Got it.
Got it.
Well, okay. Who was that? Who? Okay. Who said got it? All right. So the special prize is who was it?
I think we both should get prizes. Laura said it first.
Okay. Well,
I will defer to you all.
special prize is an air high five. Okay. That's so thank you so much. Listen, we're in a launch phase right now, and we've put a lot of resources together with GREC and with our education cooperatives throughout the state. As I mentioned, focused on what we're referring to as digital learning design labs. And as we've continued the work over the last several weeks with our education cooperatives, our district leaders, and our school leaders, a lot of good suggestions on, hey, digital learning design labs, really, what about distance learning? And the answer is yes. The answer is absolutely yes. Distance learning is a continued target for us as well. And then what about deeper learning? And so we're pushing hard on this DL2 kind of idea of getting really targeted at ideas of deeper learning, which really, as we all know, and if you have studied deeper learning concepts, we know that we're targeting authentic tasks, we're targeting learner empowerment, and that's student agency, voice and choice and personalization, and other things like intentional instruction. And so deeper learning is absolutely what we're after as well. But really it's learning. So really we're targeting learning. And if you know me, you know that I am a big fan of research, and I'm a big fan of student learning, actual learning, and understanding what that means to us. And I believe with everything I have, based on all of the work, all of the experiences that we have, as a former classroom teacher myself, that if we can integrate digital, distance, remote concepts in smart ways, that we absolutely can empower our learners in new ways that we've never had before. We also believe that post-pandemic, a lot of our concepts that we build right now will continue to live and exist on and have a heartbeat. And so we're all about learning. So really these design labs are targeted learning. If you know me, you know that I say often, step number one for us is understanding that teaching doesn't equal learning. And so you're going to hear that all throughout the morning as Greg takes over and shares with you the smart thinking behind the structures that Greg has always put in place. Teaching doesn't always equal learning. And so if we fully believe in that and we fully understand, then we have the steps and we have the understanding that we need to take steps forward. And so what this work looks like right now is launching at the KDE level with some, and if this is too much animation here, blink your eyes or close your eyes a bit, but launching at the state level with some federal funding specifically targeted for this urgent need, to launch at statewide with our regional cooperatives. But really the real work gets into taking these big concepts and ensuring that we can, in our schools and in our districts, make some strong decisions, try some things, fail forward with some things, but get to actual implementation as quickly as we can. And so today is all about a launch of some of these big concepts, stitching them together with the things that you believe in. And Greg has been leading for quite some time now, which is why we love partnering with Greg. And so stitching those together so that you can implement faster and make some strong decisions locally, and then scale the work and build the capacity locally, and understand that there is no version of perfect. There's a lot of ways to get to right, and there's a lot of ways to get to a good experience. There are some wrong ways that we want to highlight and identify, but the big deal is scaling as fast as we can in the actual effort district by district. So we want to join you in that work as well. Our team is fully invested, as well as the GREC team, that the output of today's regional launch of this work is the continued development district by district to understand what your solutions are, what your answers are, to dig through those, and then help you scale them out as quickly as you can with your teachers, leaders, and you onboard with your students and your teachers and your parents and families. So we do use a lot of design thinking principles. If you know Dr. John Nash, I know there are many GREC member districts that are a part of the UK Next Gen leadership structure, which is awesome. And so if you know Dr. John Nash from the University of Kentucky, and you know that he launched a book not too long ago, Design Thinking in Schools, highly recommend it. But you know that we're going to first empathize. We're going to first understand and empathize with the learning experience that we need. We're going to define some things. We're going to come up with some big ideas together. You are with your local school and district teams. Then you're going to develop some prototypes. You're going to try some things based on some models. You're going to test it out. And then you're going to rinse and repeat that over and over again. That's the design thinking framework that we've used for quite some time. thanks to some big thinkers in the design thinking space, but specifically shout out to Dr. John Nash from University of Kentucky. If you're on Twitter right now, give him a holler. And Terry, I want to, again, I mentioned earlier that we partner anytime we can partner with Terry and the GREC team. I'll also mention Dr. Denning, welcome aboard to the GREC team. I've followed you and your work and your research for quite some time. Dr. Kelly Davis co-authored a chapter in a book I wrote last week, so I know how awesome she is. And Mr. Flinner, excited to work with you in this capacity. But Terry, I tell you, we've partnered over and over again, and and can you believe it was just a year ago that we launched this kind of opening concept at your EdTech Palooza last year, where we hit 6 really big ideas. And these ideas were all about learning artifacts and digital learning experience. Number 5 is this idea of what that digital learning experience should and could look like and be with the tools that we have access to today. Digital content, interoperability, what impact really looks like when we think about leveraging what our students are getting to make and do. And so just a year ago, we stitched these ideas together, and now we are putting them to practice in bigger ways than we ever had envisioned. And so digital tools and resources and technology used to be a thing. And right now, for all of us, it is the thing. We are all now rapidly becoming experts in this space. And so, Terry, I wanted to just think back real quick of what that looked like. And we pinpointed the digital learning experiences to maximize the effective use of the technologies that we have access to. And I know I'm talking super fast, but I want to get to the real work with the GREC team as quickly as we can here. And we just have about 15 minutes left. And so celebrating, appreciating, and protecting so that we can expand the work. Every Cape needs a hero, and that's where we are today. To call out just this week, Forbes launched a nice article that has picked up a lot of traction. And I want to make sure you're aware that in terms of making digital content and instructional materials available outside of the classroom, keying in on outside of the classroom, a national study calls out Kentucky as being one of the top 7 states as being exceptional for making digital content and instructional materials available. This is a huge shout out to GREC, and GREC member districts should understand that the work that GREC has been doing for a long time, the work that we in Kentucky have been doing for a really long time, is being not just recognized, but is paying off for our kids. And I want to call out specifically that this work is hard. We're getting ready to launch school. Some of our districts have already launched with students. If you notice, I'm going to keep saying that word launch because it's important. And we understand it's hard. But Kentucky is absolutely a state that over and over again, we have said it's not too hard. It's not too hard. We can provide opportunities and build experiences for our kids in meaningful ways. And we're going to continue to do that. And so it's hard, but not too hard for us. We're going to continue to step up. If you missed it yesterday, that plays right in. And again, these last couple points here are really hot off the presses. They're recent, they're current events that you need to be aware of. Forbes giving Kentucky, based on this national research, a huge shout out for what we have in place already and what we have the potential to do. And so I want to call out that our Pritchard Committee Student Voice team, if you're not aware, jump on another tab, please. Get on Twitter and follow the Pritchard Committee Student Voice team. These are Kentucky students that not only help drive in the point of why we do what we do, but they are our future leaders, and you'll be amazed by the work that they're doing. But they call out specifically that potential is something interesting. I don't personally like to use the word potential. Potential, usually when we reference the idea of potential, we usually say that in reference post hoc to something referencing something that someone didn't do or couldn't do or didn't complete. Oh, they had a lot of potential. And so I quickly push past those ideas of potential and get to how important it is to get to the real work as fast as we can. So the Student Voice team helped us do that yesterday. So they had a big day yesterday. I mean, just and just the average day for the Student Voice team, and these are Kentucky students. They presented yesterday at the Kentucky Board of Education meeting. They had all eyes and ears for about an hour. If you missed it, I want to prompt you to go to the media portal with the Kentucky Department of Education and watch the section after the break. We can actually in the chat put the timestamp of where that starts. You need to watch it. Our students are stepping up in big ways. And when we talk about empowering our students in a digital learning experience, they absolutely drove it home. All eyes and ears were on them as they expressed what some big ideas that students are looking for during this time. So then after the Kentucky Board of Education meeting, all they did, the team joined Brian Williams, MSNBC, for a quick chat, which saw hundreds of thousands of views. And so really big deal. But some of the points that they made based on real research that they've completed and they're getting ready to publish, the team of students is, I want to call out a couple of points real quick. In terms of meaningfulness and manageability of work. So when we're designing our digital learning experiences as we move forward, making sure that the work is meaningful and manageable is important. We've all as adults talked about this, but pulling students into the mix to help us understand is where we are right now. We need to do that every step of the way. And so if you think about that design thinking framework and you think about rinse and repeating that to get that empathy in place to understand what our students found is that 83.5% of students felt like they could manage their schoolwork before last spring, and we had our abrupt closure, move into transition into NTI, as compared to 60% of our students afterwards. And so we also had students who very clearly shared that they've, before NTI, only 1.8 students said that their schoolwork was never manageable versus 10% afterwards. And so those are big numbers that we need to pay attention to. Also, in terms of emotions and responsibility, a couple call out points. This is their slides, by the way. I'm citing the Student Voice team's work, hot off the presses just yesterday, and they're getting ready to publish this work. Students felt like their schoolwork was more meaningful. Students who did believe that their work was more meaningful had more positive emotional changes, which is what we're after. So meaningful work, again, driving in meaningful work. And then I want to call out the second bullet here. Students who spend less than 1 hour or more than 5 hours per day on schoolwork on average had more negative emotional experiences. So Greg has built into this morning some slots where we're going to dig deeper into the SEL understanding, that the SEL work that's urgent for us right now. So there's a sweet spot of understanding the digital learning experience. And that's in between 1 to 5 hours of, quote unquote schoolwork and what that means. So schoolwork is interesting because we got to define that, and that's getting into actual learning experiences. And so also want to call out teacher communications. So we're going to drive in on these 4 big strategies here in a second. And it's important to understand that teacher communications is vital. We've always known that. And I like to think about interactions. So student to teacher interactions, student to student interactions. And so obviously interactions and communications increase motivation, meaningful interactions and motivations, interactions and communications increase motivation. And it's important to think about that, if we're relying on a grade, a kick notification to a student about a grade they receive, if we're relying on that to be communication, while that's helpful for students and parents, again, that's a postmortem kind of toe tag type of communication strategy. And that's not what we're after. We're after for meaningful exchanges and interactions. So when we're designing and when we're digging in, it's important to understand what meaningful communication can look like with one or many all at a time, one-on-one, one-to-many, small groups, things like that. So we'll dig into that a bit more. So I would like for you in another tab, if you can, and here's a shortened URL, kets.news/digital NTI. That's also linked in your agenda that the GREC team sent out. So go here with me if you can, and I'm going to browse through and kick off these 4 strategies in the next 8 minutes. So we've put together, and again, I'm going to do this too so that you can see it. kets.news/digital NTI. And I love my friend and partner in crime, if he may have jumped on already, David Cook, who leads our Division of Innovation and has always led our NTI work. He's famous for earlier this week pushing hard on really NTI stands for non-trivial instruction. And so we want to push on that as fast as we can. So what we've worked together with partners, including Greg and others, to pull in 4 digital strategies that we're after to level up our NTI experiences. And so we're referring to this as NTI Awesome. And here are 4 digital strategies that we want to push on. I want to introduce them, but you're going to dig into them as we move forward and help. Again, the real work is providing a storyline and an answer for each of the strategies. Number 1 is access at home. So access at home is important for us, and access at home is really a 3-legged stool. And without one leg of the stool tips over. And so we have to have a device per kid. Now, we understand, and that looks a lot different in every district, but we have to push hard on 1 device per student. Not coming up with solutions that are sharing devices. We have school districts right now who had distributed Chromebooks to kids last year, and they're bringing some of them back because they did additional follow-up and parents had devices at home for kids. And so not what they wanted to do. They would like to have the same device for every kid and have a strategy like that, but they're in a situation where they're going to have to create a different strategy. And so they're bringing some devices back so they can get them into lower grade levels, if you will. Lots of ideas here that our districts are after. We've had all throughout the state districts sharing on device. There's a lot of hurdles here, but as fast as we can, we're jumping those hurdles as fast as we can. We want to get away from desktops that are right now we look at as boat anchors in labs. We have to have some labs in some places, but we want to move away from those as quickly as we can. Pretty bold statements here now. Leg number 2 is internet as home internet access. There are clear strategies here that are winning. We want to push on. We have to ask and understand, name and claim the students who have internet access at home and those who do not. And then also understand a little bit more about what kind of access that is. We do know, and we would ask you to click on this read more tab. We have some clear strategies for home internet access. That's important. Sometimes there's wired connection at homes, but sometimes we're relying on mobile connectivity, and we're relying on connecting or joining a hotspot from a mobile phone. There may be data caps to that. We have to understand some of those things at the student by student level. So we're pushing on, don't guess, don't make an assumption, actually ask, and we have to understand the students who have internet access at home and those who do not. There are additional strategies that we would push on to say, whether that's a park and sync strategy. We know some districts in the GREC membership area are developing some park and sync strategies with community hotspots. Perfect. We have to solve this in a lot of different ways. And so we'd ask you to check that out and develop strategies there. The 3rd leg of access at home is all about getting access to your stuff. That's your digital content, okay? The digital content and the ease of access to get to that. We have to have our education technology leaders involved in this conversation to streamline and simplify as much as we can. So that's strategy number 1. Strategy number 2 is all about learning management systems. Our students helped us understand this yesterday and helped prove and gave us more confidence in what we've been pushing on for quite some time, which is that having a home base or a launch point for students where our teachers can structure content in ways that make sense and organize to reduce the extraneous load, to reduce the cognitive overload that it takes for students and parents to try to understand where to go to learn what to do today or what to do this week. And so a learning management system is vital. If you're not there yet and you haven't made those decisions, we want to work with you step by step. I know Greg wants to work step by step and across the area and across the region to understand how we can pull districts together who are using the same strategies. We know that Google Classroom is not a full-blown learning management system, but it provides the top 5 features of a learning management system. And so if you have nothing, you have free access to a tool that can help you get there. We know that some of our districts are paying for a full-fledged learning management system. We know that Infinite Campus plays a role in this so that we can get data syncing between the strategy. And we know that Infinite Campus plays a role in a learning management system. But consistent communications and a home base is something that we have to have. And so it's urgent. We can't wait. We can't, we would push hard on, please don't leave this up to individual classroom teachers to make decisions on or to go different ways based on what they like better. We have to have consistency here as we move forward. So we're going to continue to push hard on this strategy number 2. Strategy number 3 is all about the people. We're building networks of people, school by school, district by district, across the region and across the state, so that we can push the gas pedal even harder and go further, faster. And it's about the people. And so this is, if you want to think about a linear path, we've hit number 1, number 2, now we're at number 3. We're not going to get to number 4 with efficacy until we hit these first 3. So it's about the people. We have some clear strategies here. We have to have technical supports. We believe that we have to have folks who are targeting and focused in on how to leverage digital tools and resources in smart ways and be that real-time help for our teachers. We have to onboard our teachers in ways that make sense. And it's going to take more people to help with that. And so we may have to stop doing some work temporarily in order to invest in this work now. If you're not there yet, we would push really hard. We also believe that our library media specialists and our library leaders can help play a major role. We believe in that. Our library leaders have been doing this for quite some time. We need to elevate and empower that work from a leadership perspective. Our ed tech leaders have to be involved. And I want to give a special shout out to Mr. Bruce Lindsay, who's on right now as well. Bruce has been a force to be reckoned with in the region that for a long time now. And I always attribute Bruce to the fact that this region is the fastest moving region in the state sometimes and most of the time. And so Bruce helps us from a education technology leadership perspective all across the region from the Department of Education and our Office of Education Technology. Laura, you lead and I know I'm about out of time, and so I'm going to speed up just a little bit, but Laura leads our Digital Learning Coach Network across the state. Laura, real quickly, share how many folks we had tagged to this role of maximizing the effective use of technologies pre-pandemic last year to right now.
Yeah, so the Digital Learning Coach Network is just a really booming area for us and across the state. In 2019, we had identified about 70-ish, 70 to 80 digital learning coaches. And as of yesterday, we have 290. And that's across the state. Of course, GREC has a huge presence in that. What we are seeing is that our regions, of course, our regions don't align perfectly with the GREC lines, but what we're seeing is that some of the rest of the districts are catching up with identifying some of these people because we've seen that it's such a vital role in the state. So super excited about the work.
And that's real time. That's real time help for teachers.
Right.
Terry and Savannah, can I request 5 more minutes so I can close up here? Okay, thank you so much. Jeff leads our Student Technology Leadership Program, and it is one of our shining stars. It is our end game. Our end game is students actually doing stuff and making stuff. That's what STLP is for us. Jeff, share from a people side, all about the people, where our students are playing in and where you're seeing that expansion right now.
Well, I mean, there's some exciting things going on, at this time. It's the exciting part now is it is just free for all innovation. And there are a lot of folks who are thankfully recognizing that in our students, we have another resource that can be leaned upon for taking this digital learning to the next level. And so Marty mentioned the student voice team and the awesome things they're come up with. Some of the things that we've been hearing about are, districts and schools who are looking at, for example, looking at their STLP students as, hey, here it could be tier 1 level support desk, open up, set up some sort of office hours through a virtual Zoom, or probably Teams or Google Meet would be a little more precise, and just having STLP kids available to help troubleshoot some of the technology issues that are happening with folks that are learning from home or learning, using technology for the first time. Not necessarily break fix stuff, but more like, hey, let me walk you through how to get into this Google Classroom, and let me talk some. So just amazing, fun, interesting, and innovative ways that folks are engaging students to become part of the solution, which I think is going to be key to this whole design lab concept of thinking, Marty mentioned before, students making stuff and showing what they're learning is our end game. And so from the get-go, we have to be including students at the table in this design process. I know there's a lot of thought going into what's the experience going to be for teachers, what's the experience going to be for districts, but we have to think about, along with that with the emotional aspects of student involvement, we also have to think about how can they add to this innovation? How can they help us level up and make the experience just as solid as it can possibly be? And just keeping them always at the foundation of what we're doing is always going to be a success. We always look back and say, if we're doing something that's right for students, then we're doing the right thing. And so keeping that notion of putting students first, it's right there on our sheet, moving from teacher-led instruction to personalized student learning is really going to be the key for all of this. So Marty, that's kind of my 2 cents
Thanks.
right now.
Yeah, well, it's worth more than 2 cents. So that leads us to, and again, those first 3 strategies build as we iterate over and over again, rinse and repeat, as I said before, build to this 4th strategy of a true digital learning experience and the components that it takes. Now, this is a lot, and this is where we are spending most of our efforts and work. And I know the GREC team, this is where you are spending a ton of efforts right now, and you're building these into your communities of practice. We've pulled out and identified 4 big buckets. And again, this turns into a formula for us. I'm kind of geeky like that, but there's not one right answer. There's a lot of right answers. The formula is made up of 4 big buckets. And I'm going to go ahead and ask you that everything you see here, and if you've pulled up the site, and again, this is a workshop site for us that we're using in the design labs to make intentional, I want to push on intentional decisions on these components, and then applying what we understand, and then implementing in smart ways as fast as we can. No easy feat here. This is not easy work, but this is authentic task. And this is the work that's going to propel us. And so I'm going to ask you to put the word digital in front of every one of these buckets and every one of these elements. And so bucket number 1, digital relationships and feedback. I mentioned digital communications, what that looks like. As you saw, probably my now 2nd grader, and if you have my camera pulled up, you can see, you probably saw my 2nd grader walk in and party crash a little bit, but he had to just give me something that he built with no instructions, which is my rule for him this morning was you're not allowed to use any instructions, but build something awesome. I have 5 kids, and they're all public school kids. And so I got to experience a lot of this work as a parent as well. And I can tell you that inconsistent communications and not having a plan for communications, where sometimes I was jumping to Facebook, Remind, Infinite Campus, email, text, and then voice mail at times, and also through a learning management system. Inconsistent messages is really confusing. We know that. We get that. And we did what we had to do in the spring, but now is that time where we can even push the pause button and start to build consistent communications. Before we do anything, we are pushing hard on build the relationship. We would even ask, and if you haven't built this into your startup plans, your onboarding, is please build relationships for 1, 2, or 3 weeks before you even think about learning, before you think about digital learning, before you think about digital interactions. Focus on feedback. So this bucket is primary. It's super important. Spend time on digital citizenship. Spend time on digital collaboration and how to do that in an empowered, responsible, and effective way. Spend time on what feedback can look like, digital feedback. And so relationships win. If we start with digital relationships, then we have something to work with. But if we forego that and we skip past that, then we're going to miss a lot, and we're gonna lose some kids. And we definitely don't want to do that. Bucket number 2 is digital interactions. I'm a huge proponent of understanding and having a plan, an intentional plan for interactions. Asynchronous strategies, synchronous strategies, that's on demand and that's live. We've worked with many school districts over the last couple of weeks that, yes, it's easy to turn your camera on and have an idea that I'm going to stream a classroom live all day long. We would ask you to be more intentional and have intentional digital interactions, whether that's a lesson starter, maybe that's a kickoff, maybe that's a 10-minute checkpoints throughout the day. Be strategic about your live interactions. Make sure they're meaningful. Streaming live throughout the day, I can tell you, sitting through an 8-hour Kentucky Board of Education meeting yesterday where I had topics at the morning, at the noon, and at the end to be engaged in, is really difficult. And so we have to understand that and be intentional about our planning. Be planned and intentional about what that digital interaction, what that digital workflow can look like. And then finally, as I close up, digital instructional design becomes super important. Understanding personalization, having strong decisions on the engagement time, having strong decisions on real problems, challenges, or authentic tasks. By the way, Terry Stice knows a lot about that, if you're not sure. And then finally, evidence of learning. This is where our students are creating, and we're going to say, stop presenting and publish. Like get to the publish point of our students demonstrating and defending their work through project-based work. And so all of these components, there's a lot here. And we have asked we're going to take a few at a time, but this is our design challenge. And this is where we need to be intentional. And this is where we need to dig in and help each other. And we want to, dig in along with GREC, dig in district by district to have explicit plans for each component as much as we can. And then understand that we're going to try some things and fail forward. So we're excited to start this work with you and GREC. We're excited to have to be partners along the work, and district leaders and school leaders that are tuned in today. We're at your service. We're working all throughout the state to help launch this work and help us empower our kids and understanding the time that we're in and how important it is to continue to push. So thank you so much. Terry and Savannah, we will turn it back to you, and we'll stay tuned in and engaged all throughout this time.
Thanks, Marty. That was fantastic. And your entire team too. It's just exciting for us to have all that brain power in one room. So we're very grateful for that.
Thank you so much, Marty. That was energizing. Love it. We think I'm on. All right. We want to thank you all for joining us here at GREC this morning and joining us digitally, virtually all around the state. Marty, I love the animation. I'm going to be counting rockets as I go to sleep tonight. The launch of you really gave me the visual of the launch. I love it. I love maps and geography, so I like seeing our co-op friends around the state. But I love the idea of communities of practice. I've been very fortunate to join the GREC community beginning July 1st. My name is Bart Fleener. I'm the new executive director here at GREC. And it's a special team, as you know, if you've worked in the GREC region. It's a group of learners. It's a group with a tremendous work ethic. And it's a group that really wants to support our districts as they move forward in all things instructionally, but especially right now, as you said, rather than digital becoming a thing, it's become the thing. And we really want to help you through that effort this year. I think a lot about, and we think a lot about what COVID has done to us in the last few months. But I also think that we're also thinking about what COVID has done for us. If you flip the script on that, it has definitely given us some ability to move forward with a sense of urgency as it relates to digital design. And I can't wait to see the results that are going to happen from this over the course of the year. Excited to introduce you and let you see the rest of our team today as we move forward through the morning program. And thank you again for joining us. And to our friends at KDE, Marty and Laura, David, Bruce, shout out to you guys. And the partnership, the power of teams is awesome. So we've got a KDE team partnering with a GREC team, partnering with district teams, and the students are going to be the beneficiaries of this, and our adult team members and teachers as well. So at this point, I'm going to segue to Dr. Kelly Davis, and she's going to talk a little social and emotional learning.
Good morning. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Kelly Davis. I see a lot of faces I know, or at least their names on the screen today, and we're very excited to have you all with us. I can do it. Sorry. Not prepared. There we go. Perfect. All right. There we go. All right. So you may be wondering why we decided as we launch our digital learning initiative in our community of practice to talk about social emotional learning first. But Marty has given us a lot of reasons why we should be doing that. First of all, in the design thinking, we're looking at empathizing first. You have data from our students telling us that over 50% of students wanted but lacked access to mental health during our school closure. So we know that there are all these needs out there that we have to start thinking about meeting. How can we address those social emotional needs of students so that they can get to learning? And when you really think about it, it goes right back to Maslow. If students don't feel safe, if they are fearful, if their needs, their emotional needs are not being met, it's going to be very challenging for them to be able to learn. So that's our first layer. We really want to get at that social emotional learning piece to make sure that students have the wherewithal and the mindset to be able to really dive into their learning and really dig in. So we don't want to make people feel, or our students feel like they have to meet us where we are. We want to meet them where they are. And that's going to be a huge challenge, but also it's an exciting time for us to figure out how to do that in our new way of learning and growing together. So we know that you can't teach students as we were all taught, because we're living in a completely different world. And that was true before COVID. That was true. That was where we were coming to anyway. And as Bart said, this opportunity, this time has allowed us an opportunity to look forward in ways that we were thinking about, but maybe we hadn't gotten there yet. So it's been challenging and frustrating to some degree, but it's also a very exciting time. So when we're thinking about looking at social emotional learning supports for students in a digital world, what does that really look like? And I don't know that everybody knows. That's what's kind of exciting about it. And that's why we wanted to start this community of practice. How can we ensure that all students have equitable access to the resources that they need for their social and emotional well-being? And that's really, there's a lot of things that we have to consider here, as Marty was sharing with us, but one way that we can do that is to start this community of practice. And I'm going to just read a couple of definitions here about communities of practice, because this may be a new term for some of us. So communities of practice are formed by people who engage in a process of collective learning in a shared domain of human endeavor. That's one definition that I really like. And that's what this is all about, bringing all of this awesomeness together, these great ideas, these innovators, these forward thinkers, to share their ideas, for other people to borrow ideas, to try those ideas out, come back together. How did that work? What could we do to make it better? That's what this is going to be all about. A second definition is that communities of practice are groups of people who share a concern or passion for something and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly and frequently. And so in this case, what we're going to be thinking about is what does that look like through the lens of social emotional learning? And as Marty said, one of our strategies, it's about the people. We have to think about the people, in this case, is our students, and how can we support them. Finally, we want to think about the emotions and the feelings of our students. And our emotions need to be as educated as our intellect. So we've got to be responsive to how students are feeling right now, how we respond to them, and how we allow them to interact with us and with each other so that they feel connected in this digital world. So we want to be very intentional in meeting their needs socially, emotionally, behaviorally, and we've got to think about that across the tiers of intervention. So what are the things that we can do for all kids as kind of tier 1 interventions? And we want to, again, use that community of practice to look at those great strategies. And we're going to be sharing a few things here in a few minutes. But in addition to thinking about all students, we want to think about those students who maybe have targeted level needs. And so maybe they need some type of smaller group time, group interventions, social skills, maybe some type of emotional support, but maybe they share a common concern as a small group, and we can bring them together some way to support them. And we know how to do that in school. I think the challenge right now is how do we push that forward and support those students who are learning with us virtually, and being able to take a strategy that maybe was school-based, and what can we do to support those students who are not with us in the school building every day right now. And then also those students who have the most significant struggles, whether they're behavioral, social, emotional, mental health needs. What are those strategies that we can make sure that we have in place wherever kids are all day, every day, to make sure that their needs are met? So that's why we decided to start with social emotional learning as the kind of this first breakout of our community of practice work in this digital learning world. So I am going to ask Kelly Thompson to come up. I didn't use all my time, and I hope that's okay. But we are going to have a student panel, and Kelly's going to get that started for us.
Hello, hello. Glad to see you all this morning. I'll tell you, I've been sitting back there and I'm so excited about this work. And I was trying to jot down things that Marty Parks was saying. And, you know, I got to thinking about this student panel. I had no idea that he was going to be sharing the information from the Pritchard Committee, because I had already heard about that, been involved in that a little bit. So I was excited that that has rolled out and that he was able to share that. And so as we think about how we are really going to level up this NTI work around these 4 strategies of access, the learning management system, people, and the digital learning experience, as we were planning, we said, you know, students are at the center of everything that we do. So we have to make sure that we bring them into this conversation. So that's where the student panel came. And so we are happy today that we have some students joining us from across the Gregg region. We have young students all the way up through high school. We've not talked this morning, practiced, so I have been seeing them pop on, so they are with us. So what I'm going to do is, number 1, you know, we're just going to use first names. This has nothing to do with any particular district. This is just going to help us gather data around the experiences that our Gregg students.
I can see you.
Oh, sorry. And so, kids, if you're on there, I call you kids, even though you're young to old. All right, so when I call your name, I just want you to say hello, so you'll pop up on everybody's screen so they can see you before we get started, okay? So, Melina, are you with us today?
Hello.
Elijah.
Hello.
Yes. Bailey. Are you here, Bailey? Bailey might not be on yet, so that's okay. Lindy, are you with us today? Uh-oh.
Hello.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Lindy, are you with us today?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey.
All right, Bridger.
Hi.
Hi, Bridger. Eleanor Grace, are you here with us?
Hi.
Hi. And Brooks. Brooks, are you with us?
Hi.
All right, I think he's on there, okay? So like I said, we have just developed some questions around these 4 strategies, and those are the things that we're going to ask them to share with us, all right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask some questions about access, and I'm just going to call on you, students, okay? And you just share your responses, okay? So the first thing that I would like for you to share with our group is thinking about your NTI experiences, all right? And working at home. Did you have high-speed internet at your home? And did it work consistently? All right, so Melina?
Yes.
All right, Elijah?
Yes.
All right, Bailey?
Yes.
Perfect. Lindy?
Yes.
All right, Bridger?
Yes.
Eleanor Grace?
Yes.
And Brooks? All right, so, and I just want to make sure, I don't have any other students on here that I failed to mention.
Me.
Yes, tell us your first name.
Mary Grace.
Yeah, Mary Grace. I thought just a minute ago, I thought, oh, I forgot to recognize Mary Grace. We're glad to have you, Mary Grace. All right, so let me ask you this. What type of device do you use to do schoolwork at home? So what kind of a device did you use? All right, and then also tell us the device, but then did you have to share it, all right, with anyone else in your family, brothers and sisters, okay? So Mary Grace, I'm gonna start with you.
I used a computer or my iPad, and my brother would sometimes use my iPad, but mainly I'd use my computer.
All right. Eleanor Grace?
I used a Chromebook to do my work, and I have my own Chromebook, so I didn't have to share.
Perfect. What about you, Bridger?
Computer. Computer and laptop.
Computer and laptop.
Did you have to share it?
No.
All right. Thank you. Lindy, what about you?
I used a laptop and I didn't have to share that with anyone.
Okay. Elijah?
I used a Chromebook and I didn't have to share it.
All right. Melina, what about you?
I had a laptop and I did not have to share it.
All right. So I'm just going to ask this question kind of to the group. This is off the wall, but did you have any friends that you possibly knew of that struggled in that area of having a device to use at home, or maybe having to share it with brothers and sisters? If any of you would like to just chime in on that one.
Yeah, I definitely knew people that were using their phones to do their work. And that's like a little bit more limited access, but they still were able to complete a lot of their work on their phone. It's just harder than having like a computer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. So there's some data around the access piece, okay? So now I want us to talk just a little bit about the learning management system. So first, I'm just going to ask you, did you use, and I'm going to call it an LMS, so did you use an LMS for learning at home? And did you use the same one at school when you were like face-to-face? So Melina?
Yeah, I used one at home and we used the same one like in school, like throughout the year before we were even at home.
All right, and what was that you used?
We used Google Classroom, and then my classes at the ATC, we had Schoology.
Okay, perfect. Elijah, what about you?
We used Google Classroom throughout the school year and then an NTI.
All right, Mary Grace?
We use Google Classroom through NTI and school.
Okay. Lindy?
We use Google Classroom throughout NTI and school as well.
Okay. And what about you, Eleanor Grace?
Use Google Classroom in school and in NTI.
Okay. So let me ask you all this. Did your parents know how to navigate and use that LMS with you, or did you have to do that mostly on your own? So I'm just going to let anybody chime in on that one.
My parents do know how to use it.
My parents know how to use Google Classroom.
My dad knew how to use it. My mom had some trouble with it.
All right. So it is kind of a struggle, you know, when maybe we're using things and when we're at home and we don't have a person right there to help us navigate those things. So thank you all for sharing your experiences with that. Now I want us to talk a little bit about the people, all right? Because I think the relationships and the people part is so very important. So I'm going to ask you, does your school have like a techie person who like helps the teachers like create videos, use new tech tools, those kinds of things? So Mary Grace, I'm gonna let you start.
Yes, we would have a teacher that would come to our classrooms to make sure everything was good and to help fix technology that may have been broken. She helped us with projects.
Okay, good. What about you, Melina?
Yeah, we definitely have a few techie people that were able to help like solve any technical issues in school and out of school.
Elijah?
Yes, our library teacher helped.
Oh, okay. Comes that library media specialist coming in there. All right. What about you, Lindy?
I think we have a couple that can help out.
Perfect. Eleanor Grace?
You? Yes.
Yes. I haven't been calling on Brooks. I'm not sure if Brooks is still with us. And so, Brooks, you want to answer that one too? You have techie people at your school that help out with computers and that kind of stuff?
Hear us? No.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah.
A librarian.
Your librarian. Yes. Yes. So, and kind of that was my next question, was asking you about your library media specialist. And so we heard that for some of you, that's the person that helped you and helped the teachers and in your classroom. So do any of your schools have STLP?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We have several teams.
Cool. Do any of you not have access to STLP? All right, that's great because I love STLP. I think it's phenomenal. So let me ask you, does your school have like a student help desk? So like if you're having issues, you can reach out for help?
Yes.
We have a help desk, yes.
I don't.
Right.
I don't think we do either.
Okay, so some of you have a help desk, some of you do not. That's good to know. All right, perfect. So now let's move to the digital learning experiences. All right, and this is, I really just want, you know, I told you when I reached out to you, I just want you to be honest and just kind of share your experiences, because this is what's going to help us grow in this communities of practice and really begin to design the digital learning experiences that are going to be so beneficial for you as students. So I want you to think about your learning, NTI, home experiences, and I want you to reflect on this question. So what kind of assignments would you like to see more of? All right. So I'm gonna call you out on this one. Okay. So we go to hear from everybody. So Melina, what would you like to see more of?
I'm a high school student and my school offers AP classes, which I take a few of. And so I think offering assignments that are geared towards helping you prepare for the exam I think that would be really beneficial for those classes, especially. That's something that I would love to see more of.
All right, what about you, Elijah?
I would like to have more short videos and some group work, because there's lots of times where you just sit and stare for a long time just reading, and it makes it harder to focus and get the task done.
Thank you. What about you, Mary Grace?
I like to see more project bases because you can get more creative with those and really show how you like to express yourself.
All right, thank you. Lindy, what about you?
I agree. I think project-based would be good in an in-home setting, because I feel like setting for a long time and doing notes and worksheets is great for an extended. But if we're enjoying what we're doing, then it's going to be more beneficial to us. So I know there were some projects I had when we were doing NTI that I really enjoyed, like making little videos and stuff. And it was just like a nice little break from the worksheet, bookwork type NTI we had been doing.
All right, thanks, Lindy. Bridget, what about you? What would you like to see more of?
What did you like?
I liked everything except for sitting in chairs.
That's hard sometimes, Bridger. I'm right there with you. It is hard. Yes. What
Remember
about
that about work mode and play mode? Work mode and play mode? You like both? Okay.
All right. Awesome. Eleanor Grace, what about you? What would you like to see more of?
I would like to see more interactive and like hands-on things, because I like to do hands-on things.
Awesome. And Brooks, would you like to share?
More social studies.
And now I'm gonna ask you.
Hey, Kelly.
Yes.
Hey, can you hear us? It's Joey.
Oh, is Bailey on
Bailey.
here now? Perfect.
Yeah, Bailey's here. We've been here.
We
Yeah,
didn't
I'll let
hear
her
you
talk now.
tonight. Perfect.
You're good. You're good. Here she is. Got something you want to see more of? What's some things you'd like to see more of?
Computer work.
All right.
You said she'd like to see more of the computer-based activities. It's something about our sound's messing up, Kelly. But
You're good. We're hearing you. That's good. And Bailey, I'm sorry that I've missed you. Is there anything that you want to share from what I've already talked about, as far as telling me anything about the learning management system you used at school, or people that help out when there's tech issues? Did you use Google Classroom?
No.
No. Did you have any kind of anything like that you used, or did you do your work more on worksheets or just on the computer?
We did more worksheets.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. All right. So I'm gonna. I think we got everybody on that one. So now I want to ask you, and we probably already know this, but what kind of assignments would you like to leave behind? So students, if we went completely NTI again, what are those assignments that you would just like to leave behind that you would prefer not to have to do? All right. So this time I'm going to start with Bailey.
The packets.
The packets. Is it hard to sit and just work on packets?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of hard. So what about you, Melina? What would you like to leave behind?
Just like busy work, I guess would be the word for it. Busy work, yeah.
Yeah, busy work. Elijah, what about you?
Like assignments where you just sit on the computer for hours, just staring at the screen.
Yeah, it's hard. That is hard. What about you, Lindy?
I don't know necessarily if it's an assignment that needs to be left behind, but something I was talking to a friend of mine about the other day is when we had book work in an actual textbook and our assignments were also online, it was sometimes hard and confusing to get exactly what the teacher wanted done in the book, the hardcore textbook, and what's on the computer. It's hard to match those up sometimes. So I think if we continue with textbook work, that it all needs to be on a digital platform so that it's not confused between the hardcore copy of the book and what's going on the computer. Because I know a lot of times I was like, what page am I supposed to be on? It was really hard to match the two up 100%, and that got a little hard to deal with as we went through NTI.
Yeah, thanks, Lindy. What about you, Bridger?
I don't like sitting in chairs all day.
I know, sitting in a chair all day is hard. So you just want to be able to get up and move around while you're learning some, right? All right, Eleanor Grace.
I'd like to also leave behind just sitting and typing for too long because it gets kind of boring after a while.
What about you, Brooks? What would you like to leave behind?
Said iReady. What else?
Oh, iReady. Is that a computer program, iReady?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Mary Grace, what would you like to leave behind?
In my NTI, we had a lot of assignments in just one subject, and it got a little stressful with that. So I'd like to leave behind some of the bigger packets because that takes up a lot of time, and sometimes you can't finish them in time that you need to get them turned in.
Yes. And so you all already mentioned, when I asked what you would like to see more of, you said, I heard some of you say, I want to see more project-based activities. So I'm going to ask you, did you have very many experiences like that through NTI? Did you have project-based or problem-based learning? So Mary Grace, did you have any experiences with that?
Yes, in social studies, we had a lot of project-based assignments, which were really fun. One of those was making a board game for one of our units that we didn't get to finish in class.
Very cool, very cool. Brooks, what about you?
No, just homework.
All right, thanks. Eleanor Grace?
We did a bunch of projects in social studies. We did My Maps and we did some Flipgrids, and we also used Pear Deck.
All right. Bridger, did you do any project-based learning?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I guess that answers my question, probably. Lindy, what about you?
We had some project-based. In Spanish, we did a lot of like videos and just fun little things to kind of break up the day-to-day work. But I always said, like, if my NTI work can make me smile, then I know that that's a good thing to be at home all by myself. But if I'm smiling because of a funny video that I made that I'm actually learning with, so that's really cool, I think.
Oh, very insightful, Lindy. What about you, Bailey?
Didn't do a lot, but we did a few.
Okay. All right. Elijah?
We only really did projects in art.
Okay. Yeah. And what about you, Melina?
We did projects in a lot of my classes, but I think my favorite was for English. We did like journal entries. of our experience during this obviously like remarkable and time. And we had the option to submit those to our cultural museum if we wanted to, and I thought that was really nice. And then also in my science class, we did a lot of project-based learning and problem solving.
All right. All right. So I know my time is about up, but I'm going to say, I love hearing your voices. I couldn't see your faces where I'm at, but I love hearing your voices and sharing your experiences, because I think what you are saying hits home with us, and it will help us be able to move this work forward and do what's best for students. So first of all, I want to thank you. Everybody just give them a little hand clap there for being brave enough to get in front of all of you all and share their experiences. And let's remember that these students, plus all of our GREC students, need a hero, and we need to step up and be that hero. So I'm excited about this work and look forward to moving forward with it. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Denning.
Y'all, it's impossible to follow that. And if you would, I'm going to ask, if you look down at the very bottom of your screen, find the reaction button and give those kiddos another round of applause. Do you see it? Oh, Rhonda's got it. Amanda Farmers, you've got it. There we go. All right. So we are going to be hopping back and forth from our slide deck to some different links. So I'm going to try and see if we can manage all of our screens at the same time. No, I think we're good. Okay, just kidding. So before I share my screen with you, first of all, I want to thank you for spending some time with me today. As we have considered everything that's going on, whether it's NTI and COVID and starting school virtually and the 4 strategies for making digital learning possible and worthwhile, we at GREC have discovered that really nothing works single-handedly. So in the beginning, we thought LMS system, that's really for our district people to kind of deal with. The people part, well, that's our district, our digital learning coaches, that's kind of their wheelhouse. And as we continue to work and investigate, we've realized that these things really don't exist without each other. They're all interconnected and they all intersect. So as we continue to learn with and from you all, I'm going to ask that you play the part of a learner with me today. And because of the nature of this work, we are going to insist that you be an active participant. So if you have your handout, the virtual, the link to the handout, we're going to use lots of those links today. We're going to be hopping back and forth. At any time, if you can't access a link or Twitter, please drop your response into the chat box. So as Kelly Davis kind of prefaced for us, we're kind of beginning this work thinking about social and emotional learning because that's what's pressing for us in reality right now. So though we are investigating design labs and digital learning experience, we're doing all of that through this lens of social and emotional learning because that's where we're spending our time and our energy. And to make a connection with Dr. Park's conversation this morning about launching, we are still very much being responsive to your needs as districts and as leaders. So though we may be launching our idea and our thought today, the path is still not yet determined. So we want your feedback to drive where we go after we launch. So Dr. Davis also gave us a really good kind of background about communities of practice, which is our preliminary vision. And everything we talk about today can shift and can adapt and can change and likely will. But when we talk about communities of practice, really we have this vision of a group of people who they're led organically. The participants are the leaders. And it's worth a note to kind of talk about the difference between a communities of practice PLNs and PLCs. So PLCs are really designed to elevate student achievement. And of course, that's our goal, but that's typically at the site level. And a PLN is more just a group of people that you connect with, typically digitally, to share and kind of discuss some ideas. What's missing from those two is that organic leadership. So we at DREC have been brainstorming ways where we can facilitate this work, but not necessarily lead this work, because the experts in the field are you all that are with us today. So we want to facilitate the process, but turn the power over to you all, because you all are who we work for. The kids in your classrooms are why we do what we do. So we really have dual purpose today. Of course, we're going to dive in and really investigate a few sample ideas of how this community of practice work might look through the lens of social and emotional learning. But also throughout the day today, we are going to collect some data and some feedback from you, so we can really use that to inform the further development of this idea. So again, we insist that you participate. Let us know what you're thinking. If questions pop up, please drop them in the chat. If we don't address them right away, we're going to be very intentional about collecting those and addressing them at some point. So as we learn today, we put our learner hats on, we are going to experience several different methods of professional learning. And you may not make a connection with all of them, and that's okay. But I want you to be on the lookout for methods of learning that you think, this really could work for me. We're gonna have some guest speakers today, and let's just dive right in. So before we really look at a method, let's collect a little bit of background information. The first thing we're going to talk about is a slow chat on social media. So I'm curious, have you ever participated in a slow chat or Twitter chat in general? So in the chat box, Rebecca has just dropped in a Zoom poll for you. And if you would take a second to respond to that. Have you ever participated in a Twitter chat? So I see lots of responses, and I've got two screens going on, I'm really sorry. Lots of responses. If you have taken part in a Twitter chat, I have, and it's a little bit chaotic. I usually get lost in that time sensitiveness. I always miss a reply. I miss something really good until after the chat is over. I'm like, oh, well, it'd be silly to bring it back up now. So I usually just let it go. So we're going to kind of look and investigate in a kind of a take on a Twitter chat. But it's called a super slow Twitter chat. And I first learned about this from two authors who are writing a book. They are early education specialists, and they wanted to collect real-time feedback and ask real questions to their potential audience, and then include those in the book. So the way a slow chat works is that typically it's housed in a slide deck that links you to Twitter. So today, if you do not have a Twitter account, we still want you to engage in this activity with us. So if you would put your response to the question in the chat box, that would be fantastic. And then we'll set aside some time for you to get a Twitter handle today, because that's where all the good stuff's at, y'all. So when we investigate a slow chat, typically you review the question on the slide, and when you're ready, there's no time limit, there's no set time to be on Twitter. You click the link in the notes section, and then you tweet your response. And then not only do you get to share your thoughts, but you get to draw on everybody else's response as well. So you get to look through and have this conversation digitally with other professionals who are interested and passionate about the same topic as you are. So when you do that, we're not gonna do it yet. When we link to Twitter in just a second, you're gonna see this tweet thread. So down at the bottom, there's a reply button. When you click it, that little purple arrow, when you click it, it's going to show up like this. You'll type your response in that white box, and we encourage you, if you have access to it, link any sort of photos or pictures or links or examples that you can think of. Are you ready to go? I'm so excited. By the way, my disclaimer, this is for everyone. So regardless if you are a superintendent, if you are a student who's still on our Zoom call with us, if you are a digital learning coach, or if you are a KDE partner with us, we invite you to really participate and engage with each other, because we want all of those perspectives. We need to take all of that into consideration as we continue our work. So nobody is exempt from this. So here we go. What's one thing you will continue doing virtually regardless if things return to normal? So you've got some options. There's a QR code that you can scan and it'll take you to the Twitter app. There's the bit.ly that you can type in. I think Rebecca is going to drop it into the chat box. Perfect. And if you don't have a Twitter account, you're just going to drop your response to this question in the chat box because we still want to be intentional about collecting that feedback. I left all of my devices back in the back of the room so my Twitter doesn't blow up. All right, I'm going to check them out. Absolutely. All right, if you still need the link for the QR code, it's going to stay in the chat box. But as you are finishing that up, I want to continue to just show you another example and kind of talk through some possibilities. So the slow chat that we just took part in is really kind of a GREC regional way to communicate because that's what we want. That's our intended audience. We want your feedback to drive our work. However, when you engage in this type of slow chat globally, you've got a global perspective of things that are happening throughout the world. So not only are you connecting with people across the state, across the nation, but also globally. So I've got an example I want to share with you. I'm going to click the link. There we go. So this is the social emotional hashtag on Twitter. So as Dr. Park mentioned earlier, Twitter is kind of the place to go to stay up to date on anything that you're interested in. I'm typically not a huge social media user. I don't have personal accounts really, but Twitter has become kind of my first stop go-to for professional learning. Terry and I were talking yesterday about when we get requests for schools to come do trainings, it's very typical for me to shop on Twitter first, just to make sure that I'm not missing some cutting edge strategy or tool that's come out that I want to share with others. So Twitter has become kind of the place for me to start as I think about my professional learning. So this is the social emotional hashtag, and it has pre-sorted for you all of these responses and ideas. And the list is infinite, so you can continue to investigate. It looks like a really good conference. You can continue to investigate and kind of let this lead you kind of through your own path, investigating whatever your topic may be. Today we're focusing on social emotional learning. So I'm going to pause just a second because I know I speak really fast when I get excited, and make space for some questions or comments. I love that you're using the chat box. Sarah, Kroger Quick List definitely counts. Walmart pickup counts too. All right, I'm not going to start our presentation back, so I know our screen looks a little bit wonky, but the next concept share we're going to investigate is Padlet collections. So I have a question for you. Again, we've got a Zoom poll that's going to show up right in our Zoom window. Have you ever participated in a Padlet activity? So I think your options are yes, no, or I have no idea what Padlet is. And any of those are okay. Typically, Padlet is used as a tool to capture personal response to a question. I've used it with kids, and I've used it in adult learning situations as well, where I ask a question. It's a really quick way to kind of collect feedback and read the room in a very quick turnaround. However, we have a spotlight to shine on one of our GREC member superstars. Chrissy Bryce has shared with us her social emotional Padlet collection. So not only is Padlet a great way to collect some feedback, it can be a whole lot more than just that. So I'm going to ask that you stay in this screen with me, and I'm just going to link us and kind of do a screen share. So Chrissy Bryce has created this Padlet collection. And as you can see, this is a tool that could be used for kids. It could be used for our own professional learning. But it's just a way to grab lots of multimedia resources and pieces of evidence in one spot. So Chrissy has grouped all of these resources and tools kind of by topic. And if you notice, there are articles, there are videos. My favorite are the real life classroom examples toward the bottom. So we get not only to see what research has posed about social and emotional learning, we also get to see what it looks like in real time. My next favorite are these tools that kids are already using. So we know that if we can't find who created these, if we reach out to Chrissy Bryce, she can give us a handful of people who have already tested these strategies. This link is in your outline today, so if you want to go back and revisit that, I absolutely invite you to. Just a note about Padlet. It can be set up as private. It can be set up as public. You can also download it as a PDF and embed it into videos and share it in a variety of ways. So you're not just using the Padlet platform. Chrissy Bryce is amazing, Amy Buzz. All right. That was very speedy. The next strategy or approach to learning that may influence our community of practice work is the idea of a strategy playbook. And I know Mr. Flinger is really excited because he loves to talk sports and sports analogies. So let's go ahead and make the connection. We hear playbooks all the time in sports, regardless of the sport it is, whether it's basketball, football. But this idea of strategy playbooks for education is kind of catching wind. So our Zoom poll is going to ask, how familiar are you with the concept of strategy playbooks in terms of education? You're just going to rank how familiar you are. If you're not, it's okay. Kind of a hidden purpose to our work today is to kind of do some pre-teaching so we can all have align our language and our vocabulary. So when we continue to talk about communities of practice and digital learning, we all can kind of draw on the same experience together. Nice. I'm looking at responses. Right now, about half of us are between a 0 and a 1 familiarity with strategy playbooks. As you're finishing that up, I'm going to continue kind of building our background about the idea of the strategy playbook. So Jim Knight, the expert that he is in instruction, has kind of started this conversation with his book, The Instructional Playbook. And really the purpose is to just collect one-pagers for really high yield effect-sized strategies. So in his playbook, it actually looks like this. In his playbook, each strategy has a one-pager. So it's got a description. He also builds in the Hattie check. I'm a Hattie girl. And this is an element that I think is absolutely crucial. When we get into digital learning experience, however, there's more limited research available for us to draw on. So when Terry Stice launches her Distance Learning Playbook Academy. We're going to kind of fill our bucket and continue to learn about the Hattie check and effect sizes in the world of digital learning. Other than that, in these one-pagers, each strategy has a what's the point, why would you use this strategy, how it looks for teachers, and how it looks for students. So as we were having conversations about what would it be like to have a strategy playbook for our team and for our region at GREC, we decided there were some other considerations we wanted to be intentional about. So we have created a strategy playbook template that we have shared with some of our rock stars, and one of them is going to share with you in just a second. But we wanted to be really intentional about capturing not just the description and the what's the point, but also the considerations for in-person learning, for virtual learning, for our exceptional learners, students with IEPs and 504s, and our English language learners, as well as those 4 areas, those 4 strategies of digital learning and NCI. So I would like to introduce Miss Maddie Haas to you. Oh,
Hey
there
everyone,
she
it's
is.
Ms. Haas. I want to walk you through on how to use my Bitmoji.
She's going to do that in just a second, but I'm going to stop sharing so you can see her face and let her wave at you.
Hello. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you all can see it. I think.
Hey everyone, there's me as my Bitmoji. I am so happy to see you all.
So I have created a Bitmoji classroom, and let me go back. It got a little mixed up whenever I was switching my screen. But I wanted to make a Bitmoji classroom because I wanted to create a sense of community within my classroom, whether it was we were virtual or if we were in person. I wanted my students to know that I was there at all times, no matter what. So I liked the idea of a Bitmoji classroom, but I also wanted them to be able to see me as like a person and not just like a little animated figure. So I made this little GIF of myself and my dog because I love my dog and I always tell stories about her to my kids. So I'll click here. My voice might start to play because I added voiceovers in here, so I'll have to pause that. But so I made a welcome to second grade, and there's me. And just to let them know that I'm excited, I wanted them to be able to see me telling them I'm excited, whether they meet me in person or whether it's over a screen. And then I also wanted them to be able to hear my voice. So I'll just play a little
All
bit
right,
of it.
so first I want to say welcome to second grade. I am so excited. I'm going to be your second grade teacher this year. And I am excited to tell you a little bit about me.
So there's a little bit, and then it goes into a slide saying about me, and it just tells just little facts about me. So then I hit back to home,
Hey
and
everyone,
we're on.
there's me as my Bitmoji.
She talks automatically. But I added different links for students to be able to click on. So I added reading, math, and SEL because we are pushing SEL so much in the classroom and SEL at home. So on my SEL page, I have Taffy because she just calms me down whenever I see her. So, and I know my kids would love to see her. But I've linked on here, you know, a virtual check-in, the habit of the week, because we're a Leader in Me school. I've added a little Go Noodle that like helped with breathing, you know, just different things, resources that they can use at home and at school, because I wanted it to be, I wanted students to be able to use it whether we were here at school or at home, because it's just a good place, a one-stop shop for like everything that they need. So reading, there's books, math.
I've made it to the math room.
She's talking again. But reading or math, there's different books and links. So Prodigy, Zern, Dreambox. And then I've also linked different materials for students to use because they're not going to be able to share materials. So whenever they have their device, they'll be able to get on there and they'll be able to just use whatever they need. So, but I would definitely say I'm a second grade teacher, so I picked, you know, different resources that I would use for second graders, I saw some ideas that I was like, oh no, that would not work for me. So my one word of advice is to make it your own. You know, some people don't want to put themselves in there, you know, just use your Bitmoji, but definitely make it to whatever you feel like fits you and your students, because it's all about showing your personality and building those connections with your students. So I am happy to share with you all. And if you have any questions, I have linked, or my email address is in the playbook, which I'm sure Dr. Denny's going to get to in a minute. But I'd be happy to help or answer any questions you all have. And I'd also love, if you have any suggestions, please tell me, because I am open to any and all suggestions. I'm learning, and I'm just happy to help, or happy to help or hear anyone what they say. So, Dr. Denny.
Thank you so much, Maddie. So the backstory on that is Maddie is a second grade teacher at Rich Pond in our Warren County Partner District, and her team of teachers, their entire school, was in the house at Breck a week ago. I don't know, not very long ago, maybe a week and a half. And we developed a strategy playbook for inclusive instruction for gen ed teachers who had students with IEPs and kind of exceptional learners in their classroom. So we have that playbook already started. Then Maddie and I got to talking about this idea of a Bitmoji classroom. She said, hey, I already started one. And I thought, oh girl, I have a job for you. Because she has so graciously shared with us, and she's definitely a rock star. We thank her very much for sharing her great work with us. So I'm going to share my screen again. Yes, everybody use your reactions. Give her a hand clap. Killing it, Miss Haas. Oh heavens. So as she kind of talked through her actual slides, you have this link in your outline as well, which is kind of like the bones of the work, and kind of the template we used both for the inclusive instruction and the social emotional playbook that kind of facilitates the development. So we can have this collection of really good evidence-backed strategies that we can pull out anytime. It's also continues to live and evolve and develop as we learn. These playbooks learn along with us, or evolve along with us. So one possibility for this community of practice work is that we see the potential to have this GREC strategy playbook collection. So perhaps we start with social emotional learning and continue to develop that idea. Maybe we build upon the inclusive instruction playbook. But essentially, we want to build this virtual bookshelf. So no matter what issue comes up in your district, what you're facing in the classroom, you have at least your first step to go and collect strategies and resources and collect ideas and connect with those who have already kind of tried these strategies and face the same issues that you have. So again, all of this is very fluid and it's changing as we collect feedback, but this is one idea we have for our strategy or for our communities of practice. And to build upon this sports analogy, Terry Stice made me think about Coach K at Duke yesterday, even though it had put a bad taste in my mouth. But if we can imagine that Coach K has an incredible playbook, Coach Cal has the best playbook there is, Coach Mack has a really good playbook, Coach Barnes has a really good playbook, Coach Stansberry has a really good playbook, but they all have their own playbooks and it works well for them. But what would it be like if we could put all of those playbooks together and house them in one spot? I don't think that there'd be anything comparable to that kind of playbook. No, Terry says, no one could beat us then. So like we've discussed earlier, we want your feedback. We want your thoughts to drive our work. So we are not going to create a Padlet collection, but I am going to use Padlet to collect your response. So if you would, you don't have to have the app or an account to engage in this activity. If you would scan the QR code or pop in your Bitly or click the link in the chat or on your guide, take just a moment and share with us your thoughts about the playbook concept. There are 4 different prompts on that Padlet. You don't have to answer every one, but if you see one that resonates with you, please provide us with your thoughts. You can leave it anonymous. That's no problem at all. If you want to respond to all of the prompts, that would be fantastic. I'm going to stop my camera and give you just a few minutes to respond. If you have questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the chat box. Seeing lots of responses pop in. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your feedback. So for the sake of time, I'm going to continue talking, but please feel free to finish up your thoughts on Padlet. If you still need the link, it will still be in the chat box so you can grab it. And I feel like maybe my entire section has felt like a rapid fire presentation, and that's okay. But that's going to be the next topic that we get into. And I'm very excited because once again, we get to shine the spotlight on some of our shining stars from our partner districts. So when we talk about rapid fire presentation, sometimes it's called a tabletop presentation or a 5-minute presentation, but this strategy can be via video, in person, kind of a gallery walk, or rotating kind of setup. And it really just gives you an overview of a lot of different topics or ideas in a short amount of time. So these presentations don't go into heavy detail, but it does give you an opportunity to hear lots of different ideas. And it's just meant to give you just a little spark so you can return to the ideas and concepts that really resonate with you so you can research a bit more. I am very excited to introduce you to, and I'm going to stop sharing again so you can see their faces. I'm really excited to share this work. We have Dr. Lindsay Deere, who is a student support coordinator from the Warren County School at Richardsville Elementary, and then the guidance counselor at the same school, Miss Stephanie Gee, and they are going to kind of give you a rapid fire presentation of some of their SEL ideas for getting back to school. So I'm going to stop my video and hand it over to those ladies. Are you ready?
Good morning, everybody. Gosh, we're so excited to be with you guys. Brain overload, lots of things to think about. Thank you so much for including us in this. Want to be upfront and honest with you guys. We've been working closely with our district behavior coach to create this. So I want to give credit where credit is due. We created this social emotional learning plan for our school so that we meet our students' needs where they are, where they enter the building, and remembering the invisible backpack that they each carry. And so as we created this, that's what we kept at the forefront of our mind. We created this menu because it was important to have a holistic approach, creating this for our grade levels, their social emotional learning. We use data-based decision-making and data to drive this instruction. Wanted to make sure we shared that with you guys. One of the many reasons we created this menu was to ensure that instruction was research-based. and that it was delivered with fidelity. And so a small team of people, including the district behavior coach, the guidance counselor, myself, the admin team, created this, and we've presented this model to our teachers, and this is the model that we're going to use going into the 2021 school year. And lastly, it's imperative that we are responsive to all people, and that no one is exempt from feelings. We all have social emotional needs. And so our next slide is going to present how we are reaching those with the adults in the it's our responsibility to meet the needs of the students and the adults. And so without further ado, I'm going to let Ms. Gee, the guidance counselor, kind of explain to you our 2 slides. But thank you again for including us and for all the hard work that's been put into today.
Good morning. Hey, Dr. Denning, could you go back a slide if you don't care? So last year, we actually did SEL in our classrooms. We started doing it 3 days a week, maybe halfway through the school year. And so this year we worked together and decided we wanted this to be the start of our day every single day because we saw the major impact it made on our students. But the big thing we were trying to think about was how to include our virtual students in this. Richardsville is a family as it is anyway, and we wanted to make sure we could all still get together. So every Monday, one of the things we're going to do, and it's kind of hard to see, but we're going to have a mindful minute, and that will be actually via Google Meet. So the kids from home can log into that, as well as the students in our classroom, and we'll all be able to join together and learn a mindful minute strategy together. So that we can all still feel like we're a family learning these together, still feeling like we're all a part. And so we've actually already set that up in our calendars to where teachers will have access to that Google Meet so that we can all virtually be a part of it. We also have set up at the bottom in the home link, our Second Step home link. Second Step is our curriculum that we use throughout the entire district. And it's research-based, it's awesome. But these are home links to where our teachers can send these information about what we're talking about that week, home with the family, so the families can continue discussing these strategies with their kids. It also gives them questions to ask their kids if they're not sure how to talk about those things. So this next one is our staff check-ins. Again, this was something we did last year. We did this once a week last year. This year, due to the COVID and the changes and the stress on everybody this year, we are going to be sending this out daily to our entire staff. This is not just for teachers. It's for the admin team. It's for our classified staff, certified staff. It's for everyone. So we send this out daily. And it is completely anonymous. We have it set up through a Google form. The only way we would know who it is if they were to leave their name. But we have it set up to where they don't have to do that. It gives us a chance to see what they need, if something's going on that we need to know about. There's also an opportunity for them to give shout outs. And at the end of the week, we do drawings with it and recognize those staff members who are getting shout outs. But it's great virtually too, just because some of our staff members are working from home for this virtually. So we can still connect with them in that sense. And this is something we'll continue. One of the questions earlier was a Padlet of something we'll continue even after we're back in person. We'll always continue doing this just because it is really beneficial, and our students do these as well. And that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing. I miss you all so much. I'm so glad you could be part of our day today. So hearing again from other superstars, other rock stars in our region, we have some additional things that we are still grappling with and thinking about when we think about Design Lab and communities of practice. We know that each district has their own set of needs. And what Warren County needs is never going to be the same thing as what Cumberland County needs or what Meade County needs. So we do not intend to create this plan and expect it to fit everyone. We know that that's not the case. We also know that at any given time, our districts, our teachers, our leaders are going to be faced with situations that come up in terms of digital learning and serving their kids in kind of in this different setting. But really, it's probably safe to say that if a question comes up in Monroe County, we may have the potential to connect them with somebody else in another district who may have already dealt with a similar situation. So that interactivity is kind of what we're after when we're thinking about communities of practice. We are not the organization that has all of the answers. We know that our expertise lies in our districts and with our teachers and with our leaders. We want to be the organization that can facilitate that interactivity. So that's why it's been so important that you give us feedback and leave your thoughts and leave the evidence of your thinking with us today. And additionally, we also want to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So for years, we've talked about what learning experiences should look like for kids. But we want to be able to model that with our adult learners and our teaching partners and our partner districts. So kind of tenfold, you can roll that over and kind of continue that learning experience with your kids. Okay, Terry's shaking her head, but absolutely yes. So we've got one more slow chat for you. So if you would consider digital learning and share with us what concerns you most when you think about digital learning, whether it be this fall or in general, whether it be from a teacher perspective or a leader perspective or something your kids may be struggling with. There's a bit.ly and a QR code. We want to invite you to share your thoughts with us. So I'm going to give you a few moments, just a couple, to stop and think and respond. If you've got questions, drop it in the chat. If you don't have a Twitter account, drop it in the chat box too. We want to be sure we collect that data. There's lots of heads nodding in the room saying, oh my gosh, look at all of these comments. We can't wait to dig in. So as I leave you for just a few moments, I want to invite you to kind of fill out and share with us a more formal way to collect feedback and really give us an opportunity to be responsive to your needs. So this link is in your outline. It will be dropped in the chat, or you can scan the QR code. If you don't mind to take an additional few minutes and share your thoughts and reactions, kind of your self-assessment with us, we would be absolutely grateful. And as you are doing that, I would like to thank you again for your time. Thank you for putting your learner hat on and diving in to this experience with us. And a huge thank you to all of our rock stars and our teacher partners who made today absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for your time. Terry is going to join us next and kind of share some big picture items with us.
Okay, so we think that at this point we're just shy of 2 hours together this morning, and we could not be more excited. We thought we could not be more excited when we said hello, but now we're becoming even more excited about the work yet to come. And that excitement really started bubbling up inside of me when Marty said this morning, teaching doesn't always equal learning. So as we were really grappling around with how do we lay out this launch where we make it clear what our purpose is. We were thinking lots and lots of different things. As you see on your screen with this little graphic, you know, we knew that from our conversations with KDE that the 4 strategies were really important to us. You know, as Kelly Davis and Kelly Thompson and Savannah have done such a fantastic job today, really making us see. In the beginning, we thought, oh, okay, so these are 4 different strategies. But the more we dig into it, the more we realize just how interconnected they really are, and that one really does not stand alone at all. And we kind of, you know, we were just struggling, like, how do we get started? How do we get started? And then we just finally came to the realization, if we would follow what we believe at GREC with our whole heart, that if we focus on the learner, everything else will follow. And so that's really what got us started. And when we think about, you know, 45 unique districts in GREC, that's 358 unique schools. That's 10,128 unique teachers that are serving 158,051 learners. And that can be overwhelming if we concentrate on that. But we're going to do what we know is best for learning. And that's where we want this focus to go. So we're relying heavily on our partners to help us with the 4 outliers there. To say we're excited about the opportunity to work with this expertise at KDE, I struggle to find words to express how grateful we are at GREC to have that opportunity. And just to say one more time how much we need them. We can't do this without them. So we could not be more excited about that. And then in turn, having that connection with them is going to make our districts have that closeness with them as well. And that we hope this just leads to really close relationships with all of us, and we all come together and have this regional collective efficacy to help us reach our ultimate goal, where we are raising kids to be self-regulated learners. Because if we can accomplish that, they can accomplish anything in life. So I just want to thank you for your time today. You will be hearing from us. We are going to dig into data the minute we disconnect. And Marty, Laura, Jeff, Ben, James, I don't want to leave all of you out, but all of our friends at KDE, we are thrilled that you joined us today. Again, districts, you are our heart and soul, and we do not exist without you. So thank you for giving us 2 hours of your time today, and watch for Digital Design Labs coming soon. See you later.